Hello and welcome, 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 welcome. Today we are talking about how to turn all that conflict in your relationship into connection because done right, conflict is an opportunity to connect. Just while everybody is coming in, I will give you a quick rundown of what you can expect today. We're going to be on for around 60 minutes. We're going to have Q&A at the end, and I will stay on for as long as possible and make sure you get all your questions answered. Um, there is no chat box. I want you concentrating on what I'm saying, but there is a Q&A box. As questions come up, the problems that you're bringing to this session, get it into the Q&A box, and I will give you support and advice at the end. So, just before we get started, I'll tell you a little bit about me and how I came to be doing what I'm doing and who am I to be talking to you about your relationships. Well, my name is Naomi Stonier. I am a relationship coach. I work with couples and individuals on their romantic relationships. I trained at the Tony Robbins Coach Training School. And I also trained with the Relational Life Institute as a couples coach. So that's my official training. But most importantly, to me anyway, this is a journey, this is a path I have taken myself. And I can see someone is raising their hand. And if you've got any questions, please put it into the Q&A because the chat box is disabled. So, yeah, as I was saying, this is a journey I've taken myself. I was really struggling in my relationships. Uh, from childhood onwards, this stuff repeated into my adult relationships. I really struggled in my romantic relationship. Indeed, all relationships were difficult for me until I found this work. So I understand what it takes to go from struggling and suffering in your relationships to thriving in strong, healthy relationships. I understand what it takes. And I believe so passionately, so deeply in this work that now I do this for a job. And I'm going to be walking you through the exact same process I went through and all my clients go through to move from constant struggle into loving, happy relationships. So let's get started. Let's get this show on the road. So, how the hell do we turn conflict into connection? Because when conflict is happening, it feels really personal. It feels like you or your partner are the problem, and it's very personal. And from here, it's very difficult to repair because that's how you turn conflict into connection, is repair. We're going through a constant cycle in our relationships. It's a never-ending cycle. It will never end of harmony, disharmony, repair. You go round and round that cycle. But the problem is there's an element to that cycle that we don't know how to do, which is the repair. When you know how to repair, that's how you turn your conflict into connection. And I'm gonna walk you through, I'm going to talk to you about how it is possible to do this. Now, before we do that, you have to understand what you are up against here, why it is so difficult to repair in our relationships. And the reason this is so difficult is we now in the last 50 years are have been have we expect so much more from our relationship. So you've got to look at the bigger picture of this, of what you're up against. You've got to understand how you're trying to create these relationships in a system that is anti-relational. This system in the last 50 years, we rightly have started to demand a lot more from relationships. We want deeply passionate, connected relationships well into 60s, 70s and beyond. But the system we are in is not built for a deep, passionate, connected relationship. The system we're in is built for stability. It's built for progress. So we Our expectations have changed dramatically, but the system has not. So we need to move beyond the system that we are in. The system that we are in, it celebrates the individual. We live in this individualistic society that teaches us to stand up for me instead of stand up for we. The system that we're in is this transactional power over, power under system. And you've got two positions in this system. You've got dominant, controlling, winning, power over, or you've got weak, helpless, one down. And these are historically coded as masculine and feminine. And we have this belief, this sort of understanding that the system we're in benefits masculine and feminine is the loser. And this actually isn't true. This system, there are no winners in this power over, power under, one up, one down transactional system that we are in. In traditional heterosexual relationships, women are socialized to care, to do the emotional heavy lifting, to not speak up. And men are socialized to perform, to cope, to not feel. We have the feminine ideal of you've got to look perfect, you've got to be able to look after everybody and look amazing while you're doing it. The huge pressure of that. And then you have the masculine ideal of this unflappable superhero who's always calm, unruffled, always in control. And these positions, these ideals that we've got to reach create so much pressure for everybody. And no, they're all unattainable for all of us. We've got men we're asking for more in this system. We're trying to move out of this system where we're asking for more, but we're up against men have the ability to be vulnerable and emotionally articulate. They have that trained out of them from childhood. And you've got women in traditional heterosexual relationships fed up with doing the heavy emotional heavy lifting now and rightly demanding more, but demanding it from men who've not been who have had it trained out of them. They've not been taught how to do this. So we're women don't want to be in the one down position. They don't want to be in the historically feminine coded weak, helpless position. They've had enough of that. So they're standing up for themselves, but in this individualistic culture that we're in of I'm going to stand up for myself. I'm not going to stand for this anymore. I'm going to put a boundary in. Women are that we're empowered, but in an anti-relational way, because you've only got two options in this system that we're in, power over or power under, weak and helpless or strong and dominant. So men and women, those are the two positions that they operate in our relationships. So this is the system that we are in. We are in an anti-relational system built for stability, and not for these deeply passionate relationships that you want. And the solution to this is we got to move beyond this. We've got to move beyond these two binary transactional positions. We've, men have been, it's socially, generally socially less acceptable for men to dominate. I'm the head of the household, you will do what I say. But there's been no alternative taught. So a common dynamic is women demanding more in their relationships. But remember, you've only got two positions, weak or helpless, or strong and dominant. So asking for more, but just moving over into the dominant controlling role, and men just shutting down They don't know how to handle that. They don't know how to give the woman what she wants. There's so they just shut down and withdraw and retreat. So one of the common dynamics I see is angry complaints. But how do men deal with angry complaint? Well, in traditional heterosexual situation, they know how to batten down the hatches, wait for the storm to pass, and then carry on doing what they've always done. So we're taught that boundaries will fix this, that boundaries will matter, but we're completely confused about this. In this system that we're in, the way we're putting in boundaries is more like a defense, more like a threat. And it's anti-relational. And as I said, we need a third position. We need to move beyond power over, power under. And we need to move out of this individualistic way of standing up for ourselves. And we need to move out of this win, lose, black, white way of interacting and into a relational power play, a loving power play, for example, that could stand like this, that could sound like this, instead of, I won't stand for it. I'm not going to be treated like this. I'm putting in a boundary. That's individualistic. That's power over, power under, more of the same. Relational, loving power play is which is moving beyond these binary positions is I want to hear what you've got to say. Can you say it differently so I can actually hear you? Okay. So yeah, this is what we're up against. This is the anti-relational system that we're in. And these historically, traditionally masculine, feminine coded roles, which in traditional heterosexual relationships now can be mixed around. Either sex is operating in these roles, but you've got, you have one up, one down, or you're both angry, or you're both withdrawn. We need to move into this honest, open, emotionally aware, and language with each other. We need to have the courage to be vulnerable and to be open about what we're scared of and what's going on underneath, and into this new kind of language. And this is a really scary place to be because it's loving, it's calm, and it's a request. You are making requests of each other. They're not demands, they're not begging, they're requests that you have the confidence to make to each other and accept that these requests can be refused. And this is a very scary place to be because when you make an honest and truthful request from your partner, there are three things that can happen. Your partner can get angry, they can blow up, they could leave, they could say, I'm out. Or the other third one, very scary in this system that we're in, is they'll fall apart. And so we don't know how to do this, and it's scary to do this. So we stay in the pursuer retreater dynamic. This is the most common dynamic I see. One's angrily complaining, and the other one's avoiding and retreating. So, if this sounds familiar, if you are stuck in this dynamic of fighting to win, you're litigating the issues. It's like you're in a courtroom battling to get your case heard and for your case to win, you are not alone. This is the system that we're in. You're so busy fighting over what the actual facts are and whose facts are right and whose facts are wrong. And, one of you's up and one of you's down. You may well swap around these positions. This is the system that we live in. And, and this system cannot give you the relationship that you want. We've got to learn to move out of this. So that's problem number one, the system that we are in. Problem number two is the patterns you learn in childhood. Where do you go on a bad day? Now, we're not talking about who you are um, on a good day when life is going well. We're not talking about who you are when you've had enough sleep, when work's going okay, when the kids are behaving, when the weather's nice. We're not talking about those days. We're talking about when the pressure is on, when the stress hits, where do you go? When you feel like you're being attacked, when something difficult happens, what is your automatic conflict move? What is your defensive crouch? How do you protect yourself? And whatever it is, this reflex, automatic, unconscious move that you do is something that you learned well before you got into this relationship. And this is key for us to understand. Now, what I'm talking about here is your whoosh. I'm talking about that whoosh you feel that has you getting big and loud, that whoosh you feel that has you shrinking and getting the hell out of there or keeping the peace. There is a whoosh that you feel where things feel dangerous and you will either fight, flight, or fix. Yeah. And that whoosh comes from your childhood. So I'll give you an example. Your partner shouts at you for your partner comes tearing into the room, shouting at you because you left the kitchen a mess. In that moment where you feel that whoosh, you are no longer responding to your partner. You have that whoosh has time traveled you back to your past, and your partner is no longer your partner. They've turned into your father who constantly criticized you. And we either model or react to the behavior around us. So modeling would be your parent was a rager, and so you become a rager. Reacting would be your parent was a rager, so you learnt to go and hide in your room, lose yourself in your toys, and shut out the noise. Okay, so in this moment when your partner comes in blowing up about a bit of mess in the kitchen and they transform into your parent who was constantly criticizing you, you think, I'm not standing for this. I had a critical parent. I won't be criticized now. And you rage right back at them. And in that moment, boom, you trigger your partner right back. And guess what? Your partner had an irresponsible parent who didn't take ownership of mistakes, and you trigger them, you transform into their parent, and you are off to the races. You two can sit right down, and these two children are going to go at it. So we marry our unfinished business. We marry people who resemble our mothers and fathers enough to trigger us. And if we're lucky enough, different enough so that something new is possible. A new way of responding is possible. So when you feel the key here is to understand when you feel that whoosh, you are not thinking relationally. You have that kid who had to deal with whatever it was growing up in that moment, that kid had to deal with it. That kid had to respond in the best way that they could. And because they didn't have an adult to guide them in that moment, that kid just had to figure it out and figure out a way to parent itself in the moment. And it is a learned response that you learned in that moment. And what happens is that response does not change. You take that response with you, and that becomes your automatic response. And that was learned young, and it's repeating now in adulthood. So for me, I was a rager. I learned to get big and loud as a kid to deal with what was going on, and that was being modeled to me, and I learnt that I learnt to rage back, and it protected me, and it was useful to me in that moment. And the way these kids learn to handle these moments is amazing. And we celebrate these little kids. You know, I learned to love that little rager. She had to fight back. And in childhood, that was what she had to do, and it worked, and it got her through that. But as I took that into adulthood and I was in situations where I did not need to rage, it became really harmful for me. So adaptive then, helpful then, maladaptive now. Now, what I have to say to people when I suggest this to them, when I suggest that the way you are responding to your partner right now, this automatic reflex that you're having right now, that isn't about, it's not actually about your partner. It's something you brought into the relationship. We think each other's may doing this to us, but you've brought it into the relationship. When I talk about trauma, childhood trauma, we all think about big trauma. We all think about abuse, physical, sexual, um, neglect, extreme neglect. Now, I always have to have this conversation with people. Neglect is the the main reason children are taken away from families. The main reason, far outstripping the others, is neglect. So physical and sexual abuse is not actually the biggest reason that children are removed from families. It's actually neglect. Now, when we think about neglect, we're thinking about extreme neglect, not being fed, not being clothed, not going to school. Yeah, we're thinking about, serious neglect, and that is why children would be removed from a home. I talk to people about something called passive neglect. And we have to think about it. Parenting has three essential functions: nurture, guidance, and limits. And I, when people say, "Oh, there's, no neglect, no trauma in my childhood. There's no reason why I would be responding the way I am. It's got nothing to do with my childhood." What I have to say to those people is this: who did you turn to when you were hurt or frightened? And if it was not your parents, why not? So I ask people, so passive neglect looks like this. You had parents who worked all the time. Yeah. You were looked after by a sibling or childcare. Um, your parents split up and you had an absent parent. So you only had one half of the parenting. Yeah. You need both of those dynamics in the relationship. Maybe you learned, maybe you were taught not to complain. Maybe you were taught to suck it up, to get on with it. Maybe you were taught it was a virtue. This is really common. You were taught that the emotions are a bit gauche. This is very common with British. You don't make a fuss, you don't make a scene. Yeah. Um, uh, Being resourceful and figuring it out for yourself is seen as a virtue. So, because of course we've got helicopter parenting, haven't we? And that's also of abusive behavior. That's intrusive. So we've got passive neglect where you learned, and you probably won't remember when, because it will have probably happened very young. At some point, you turned to a caregiver for help, and somehow you received the message, don't come to me. Okay. And it's passive neglect. And in that moment, the kid has to just do the best it can, and it has to learn how to do it. And when you're a kid, you're going to do the best you can, but it's not going to be the same as adult guidance. Okay. And then, of course, you've got enmeshment. You've got overly intrusive parents who overmanaged you. And, that's a whole other kettle of fish. So when you are considering the struggles that you are having in your relationship, you have to think about these automatic, reflexive, unconscious reactions that you are having. So if you are, if you're shutting down, if you're not talking, or if you're blowing up, where did it come from? These reactions were learned before you came into the relationship. And when you can both start considering, where did this come from? We can stop blaming each other, understand there's more to this. We're doing a dance. These patterns are doing a dance inside an anti-relational system where we are fighting to win, we are power over, power under. That's your only two options. And you can see why it is so difficult to sort out our relationship problems. And so, what do we do with all of this? We go off into individual therapy. And individual therapy is incredibly valuable. Um, but it's more focused on insight. And of course, insight matters, but there are limitations to insight, and there are limitations to insight uh, discovered individually. And that is because the wounds, your relational wounds that have you reacting in unhelpful ways that are barriers to connecting and solving problems together, these wounds, these automatic conflict moves that you learned, they they do not occur in isolation. They occur relationally. So these unhelpful reactions that you have will learn in a relationship, and they replay in a relationship. So while you can gain insight into these unhelpful relational reactions in individual therapy, that insight alone is not going to help you in the moment. Bang, when you're heated, boom, and it goes off in a relationship. So these patterns don't live in your head, they live in your nervous system. They're reflexes. And this is how, bang, we're in it before we even knew it. It all makes so much sense now in the moment, bang. Rational thinking goes out the window, and boom, 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 you're off to the races. And that's why when you are working as one person in isolation, we don't see the dance. We don't see the dance of respond and react, that these childhood patterns do a dance. We don't see that play out. And you do see that play out in couples coaching. So the goal isn't to fix your childhood. So, in individual therapy, you will gain insight and awareness. Most of the time, we've got no idea why we're struggling so much. And of course, you'll slow it down, you'll get that insight in individual therapy. But the goal is not It's not only to do that, the goal is to understand what's happening to you now, in the present, between the two of you when the pressure's on. So, we are in an anti-relational system. This system is built for stability. It is not built for this deeply passionate, connected relationship you want for life. We have our childhood patterns are doing a dance in your relationship. These reflexes learnt as kids on a bad day, you, wise adult, rational, and wise adult, in the moment, boom, you leave the room and these little kids go ding dong. And then to solve that, we go off and heal in isolation. And it's ineffective because this stuff isn't happening in isolation, it's happening between us. So that is what you're dealing with. That's why you struggle so much, no matter what you do to solve your relationship problems. That's why it isn't working. So, what is the solution? First of all, you must understand that while you feel that this, the stuff that goes on between the two of you is happening only to you. And oh my God, the state of us and what's wrong with us. And, oh, we're so awful. The secret shame we all have that it is not true. There are common themes, common mistakes that everybody is making. And I've been doing this for years, and there are uh, common losing strategies, as we call them in relational life coaching, losing strategies that we're all pulling. And I'm going to go through the five most common losing strategies with you right now. So the solution is to get to know your automatic conflict moves, get to know where you go under pressure. And first of all, we got to get clear on this. And I'm going to go through the list of you now. And you want to just take a moment and get really honest with yourself and say, what is it that I do? What is it that I do under pressure? Because you've got to get to know this. You've got to understand what you do. So, number one, first one, losing strategy, automatic conflict move. Number one, being right. You double down to prove your point, even if it costs connection. So you may win the argument, but it's at the cost of connection in your relationship. Okay, being right, fighting to win. Okay, that's losing strategy number one. And I want to offer to you there is no right or wrong in your relationship. Objective reality has no place in our relationships. Logic, fact, it's irrelevant. That's how I'm feeling. That's how, all the mess in my head, all the mess in yours. How do we come together and just see each other's point of view without caring who's right and who's wrong? There's controlling. Losing strategy number two, controlling. There's the obvious control. There's the you'll do as I say, I'm in charge control. And there's the covert control. And that is people pleasing. That is keeping the peace. When I hear I'm only trying to keep the peace, I'm paying attention because keeping the peace is managing, it's steering, it's not being honest, it's avoiding difficulty. Okay, so when we don't speak up, we don't speak our mind, and we covertly manage and steer our partners, it's controlling. And then there's unbridled self-expression. You overshare, you dump, you escalate emotion to be understood. You justify verbal diarrhea as just being honest, okay? This is kitchen sinking. If you've heard the phrase kitchen sinking, you start off with one issue and then you bring up 10 others that have happened over the last 10 years, your favorite hits, and you dump them all in one go. That's kitchen sinking. And then there's retaliation. You give pain for pain. This is sulking, withdrawing, icing your partner out. This is a really common one I see when you've got a mismatch of sexual desire and sexual energy. Your partner refuses sex with you. You sulk. You freeze them out. You retaliate. And then you have withdrawal. This can be a form of retaliation. You withdraw emotionally, physically. It can feel like your only option. You know, when you're dealing with this childhood stuff, this really does feel like, and you're dealing with childhood stuff that creates a barrier to, you've got a partner who you don't know how to comfort them when they're upset. You just don't know what to do. No one ever comforted you when you were upset. You withdraw. And it can also be a form of retaliation. And you can withdraw right in front of someone. You can be sat right in front of them. They're talking away to you and you can just shut off. You can wall off. So those are the five most common losing strategies. We're doing all of these. On a bad day, we're going around these. But you're going to have some favorites there. And you got to get really honest with yourself and ask yourself, which one of these am I doing? Where do you see yourself in those losing strategies? Okay. And I'm going to share it with everybody on the call. I've got the winning strategies to replace losing strategies, and I'm going to share them with you. For everyone who's come live on this call, I'm going to share them with you. You're all going to get a copy of this, and I'm going to go into this in more detail. Now, there's also something else that I've got to normalize for you all because we are all secretly in our heads thinking, oh my God, I'm the only one dealing with this. And this is something we call in relational life coaching, your core negative image of your partner. And we've got to normalize this. So, in those really bad moments, you and we have to normalize this in these really bad moments when you look at your partner and you go, oh my God, how have I ended up with this person? And this image that you have of your partner in this really tough moment. It's like, oh my God, what am I doing in this relationship? We have to normalize these moments. Now, this image that you have of your partner is not accurate. It's not who they are on their best day. It's not even who they are on their worst day. It is an exaggerated, emotionally charged image of your partner that gets activated when you are threatened. However, there is a grain of truth to this image. There is a grain of truth to this image. So I'll give you an example of me and my partner. My partner is, laid back, charming, boyish, jokes around, gets away with stuff. And, it's on a good day, it's a blessing. It's a lovely thing about him. On a bad day, it's I'm seeing someone irresponsible. I'm seeing someone untrustworthy. Um, and my core negative image is on a bad day, controlling, dominating. I'll give you an example. One of the major battlegrounds for me and my husband was food. I used to be, and this is something I've worked on, really anti-sugar, anti-wheat. And I really didn't want our daughter eating this stuff. And I can remember one day, and it's, on a bad day, it's probably about 10 years ago now. It was, the pressure was on, young kid, doing lots of IVF, lots of fertility treatment, trying to have another kid, in that pressured time in life when it was really tough. And like I'm walking into a room, my husband's sharing a packet of biscuits with our daughter. And in that moment, boom, the core negative image kicks in. You are unreliable, untrustworthy, dangerous. And you can imagine, boom, off I go. And can you imagine what his core negative image of me was? controlling, dominating, completely unreasonable, completely rigid. And and you have to normalize these moments, these extreme moments of real fear and doubt about each other. So you have to normalize these moments happen, but you also have to acknowledge the grain of truth in these images. And your greatest strength when it gets too strong, it's your greatest weakness. So owning, yes, I can get controlling and dominating. I know this about myself, and boy, do I work on it. And owning it and letting that be on the table, taking responsibility for it, and my husband's laid back, easygoing style can, there's a grain of truth in negative aspects of that. And when you both have your core negative image on the table, honestly, it can really help us, one, normalize when it becomes a very extreme, emotionally charged, fearful image of each other. And just recognize that these are elements of us, and on a bad day, it can feel very extreme. So you can see the problem clearly. You can see the system you're living inside. You can see these childhood adaptive kids who take the wheel in pressure, and you can see the losing strategies that you're operating from. So what do we do about this? First of all, you must get into awareness. You must get into awareness of where you are going. And this is tough to do, but it's also worth it. This is moment to moment work. And um, it is really tough to do, but I want you to think about what is at stake with doing this. So you getting into awareness, slowing it down, emotional pause, so you can start to uncover and see your automatic, unconscious reflex moves that you make in conflict. Okay. Now, this feels like a lot of work. I have many times myself said and heard others say, I don't know, it just happens to me. I don't know how I get there. And it feels overwhelming to try and figure out where you're going. Yeah, and it feels overwhelming to be able to press pause on it. And I want to offer you this. This is not a case of ability. Okay, this is not about how clever or intelligent or capable you are. This is about desire. This is about motivation. And to create motivation and desire to slow it down and catch it, you've got to create some leverage. And I want you to think about, if you don't catch these losing strategy, automatic conflict moves, if you don't catch them, your relationship may not survive. And if it does survive, it may well be an unhappy, unsatisfying relationship. And the research on this is clear. Unhappy, disconnected relationships are bad for your health. Plenty of research has been done on this. This is the equivalent of smoking a pack and a half of cigarettes a day. And not just to mention that, the kids are watching, okay? There are no manuals, there are no classes. We're not taught how to do relationships. The only training we get for relationships is the relationships around us. So whatever losing strategy you're pulling right now in your relationship, that's what you're passing on to the kids, okay? So I don't know about you, but for me, that was a huge motivator. The moment when the penny dropped, oh my God, I am doing what I promised I would never do. You know, I had it done to me, and I said to myself many a time, I will never do this. And the moment when I realized, oh my God, I am doing this and I'm doing it to the people I love the most, that was the moment when I went, boom. I gotta learn to press pause on this stuff. And I offer to you, do you want to give it a go 100 times before you learn to catch your automatic conflict move and move into something else, something different? And I've got 5 winning strategies and I'm going to share them all with you. And the bridge to replace your losing strategy with a winning strategy, and the bridge between your losing and winning strategy is curiosity. So when it all goes boom and or it all goes into a deep freeze, it's, getting to start with, you're going to get curious and you're going to get, okay, what's going on here? How is this playing out? Let me replay it. Let me figure out how am I showing up here? Okay. So this is what you need to do. And then another strategy, I'm going to give it to you right now to get you out of this habit of these losing strategies. Another habit for you to learn. Oh, another technique to get you out of these are just habits, okay? Another technique to get you out of that is the 4-step repair method, okay? So again, for everybody who's come live to this call, I am going to share this worksheet with you. So I'm going to go it through with you now. I'm not going to go through it in detail, but I'll quickly run through it now. And then after this call, you are going to get this worksheet and you get to keep that. So to get you out of these dances you are doing, because I imagine every time you try, so what's happening to you? This is the most common situations people are in, recurring arguments that solve nothing, or you can't ever actually get to talk about it because either it's a shutdown, you avoid it, you don't bring it up, one of you refuses to talk about it. Okay, so this 4-step repair method, this 4-step communication method is going to help you start moving out of these dances, these habitual dances that you're doing. So, step 1, you have got to ask for permission. You have to ask for permission. Hey, I have something that's bothering me. I have something that's important to me. Oh, I think we really need to talk about it. Are you open to talking to me about this? And the second thing you got to do, you got to put a time limit on it. Because when you've got that will put a boundary around it, especially with someone who is avoidant of talking about stuff. Because for them, you wanted to talk, oh my God, we're going to be here for an hour. So, do you have 5 or 10 minutes? Can you talk to me about this? And if they refuse, that has got to be accepted. And you try 2 or 3 times. And if you get refused, if you get shut down, well, that's information, that's valuable information. To me, that's an indicator you need to get some help. So, first step, you ask permission. Then I'm going to give you an example of how to do it. Step 1, you name the facts. Okay. A fact is something you can prove in a court of law. So here we go. Here's an example. You said you would be home in time for dinner. We waited for you for 45 minutes. We sat at the dinner table for 45 minutes waiting for you. You did not call, you did not text to say you would be late. Those are the facts we can prove in a court of law. Step 2, you name the story that you made up about this, okay? Because anything other than the facts is your story. So the story I told myself was, you don't care about us. We're not important to you. You wouldn't if you had an important business meeting, you wouldn't do this, but you do this to your family. We're not important to you. That's my story. And you call it your story. You own that. It feels like a fact to you. It's not. Step 3, how did that make you feel? And my tip is don't go with the first emotion that comes to you because that's probably your automatic losing strategy. And don't go with anger. The anger is not the first. Anger is this protective emotion that protects more painful emotions underneath. So I felt hurt. I felt lonely. I felt alone in this. I felt insecure. Yeah. And then step 4, what do you need your partner to do to repair? So the repair is go upstairs and apologize to the children and please agree that you will stop working so many hours. Please agree to reduce your working hours. Now, here's a second tip. if when your job, if your partner carries out your repair wishes, is to accept those repairs. And this can be difficult to do. So when problems are ongoing, when repair is offered, we can often dismiss it. So I'm not going to go into any more detail about that, but that what I've walked you through there is what you're up against, why it's so difficult, and then I've just walked you through the art of repair, awareness of your losing strategies, learning to pause, slow it down, switch into winning strategies, and how to raise issues with each other. This is the art of repair. And when we know the art of repair, that is how we turn conflict into connection. Remember that cycle I mentioned to you at the beginning of this training? We go through constant cycles of harmony, disharmony, and repair. This is normal. You will always go through these cycles. Think about how often you go through them at the dinner table, on a long drive somewhere. Harmony, disharmony, repair. You will never, no matter how perfectly you do this work, you're always going to go through these cycles. My God, it would be so boring if you didn't. But the part we are missing because of the system that we live in and because of these patterns that are doing a dance, we miss out repair. So I have just walked you through the skill of repair. So you're going to get worksheets to support you in that. To that you can take away with you and you can use in your relationships right now to make immediate change. So that is the training. We're going to go to Q&A. But before we go, but before we go there, I'm going to talk to you about how I can help you further. So while I do that, all your questions, put them into the Q&A now. You can put them in anonymously if you wish. I'm going to stay on for as long as possible and get all your questions answered. Now, if what I have been saying is making sense to you, but it feels overwhelming, it feels like too much to do on your own, you don't know where to start, your next step is to book a free discovery call with me. This is a free 30-minute phone call with me, and there's going to be various circumstances in which you're going to be reaching out for this call. So number one, you are a couple who knows that you want to do work and you're looking for a couples coach. If that is you, book that discovery call with me. I'll put the link into the chat. Book that discovery call and I will walk you through the relationship breakthrough program and you can decide if it's right for you. You also on this call, there are going to be individuals who want to work on their relationship, but they don't know how to raise it with their partner, or maybe their partner is refusing to go to get into work with them. Book that call with me, and I will spend the time helping you get clear on exactly what the issues are for you and support you in how you approach your partner with this. I'll support you in what to do if they say yes and what to do if they say no. So book that call with me if you are desperate to get into work and you're really struggling to get your partner into the work. I can help you. And there's going to be a third person. You're an individual. You don't want to work as a couple. You can absolutely do this work on your own. Book that call. I'll walk you through the relationship breakthrough course and help you understand how it would work for you as an individual. And then you can decide if that's the right fit for you. So if your partner is unwilling to get into work, or you want to do it as an individual, you know you've got stuff you want to work on, you want to understand what you're finding difficult and you want to do it differently, this work can absolutely help you. So if you're a couple, if you're an individual, book that call. I'm going to put the link to my booking appointment schedule in the chat. And you also have an email that's sitting in your inbox right now. And yeah, just get that call booked in. So there we go. There's the link in the chat right now. There's also an email in your inbox. And now we will get to the questions. All right, let's have a look. So, gaslighting. Okay, gaslighting is um, when people say the word narcissism or gaslighting, I always feel it's really important to get clarity on this. Gaslighting is deliberate and a deliberate attempt to make you believe that something is happening to you. It is a deliberate and consistent behavior of making you believe that there is something wrong with you, that something is happening to you. Okay. So I would love to have a chat with you about how, get some actual examples and help you with this. So it sounds that it sounds like it very quickly escalates for you to a very serious, it gets very serious very quickly. And what I would ask you to do is you're talking about shutdown and withdrawal. So there is that's a losing strategy. Withdrawal is a losing strategy, and then you get the silent treatment until they apologize. So that's fighting to win. That's being right. That's another losing strategy. That until you apologize and say you were wrong, and then can you see the fighting to win? That doesn't end it. So what I would offer to you is to give the four-step communication tool a try and talk in facts and feelings. So when you talk about how you feel about an event, there can't be a dispute about how you're feeling. So, for example, I felt really hurt when you did this. And then a very normal reaction will be, but you shouldn't feel hurt. It wasn't a big deal. And in that moment, you can say, well, that's not, that's not relevant. I'm telling you, this is how I feel. This is how I feel about it. And how you feel about something, whether it's reasonable or not, is how you feel about something. So I would, I would question for you gaslighting. I would question using the word gaslighting is taking you down a path. And is there a different way of responding? Because gaslighting, the word gaslighting, you're dancing around, you two do a dance around this word. So I would have a think about, is there another way of of naming what's going on? And so without specific examples, um, yeah, I wouldn't go into that one any further. So yeah, I would really have a think about when what plays out once you say this is gaslighting. And so what plays out before that if you feel that your partner is gaslighting you, I would take those five losing strategies and work through the interactions that lead up to you feeling gaslighted and figure out what's happening. Because the moment you say, okay, I feel like I'm being gaslighted, the ability to work through this is over. So let's have a look. Okay, I'm glad that you've been enjoying this training. I'm glad it's helpful for you. Okay, let's have a little look here. I feel like I'm always the one holding the relationship together. So this sounds like your part in the dance. I would ask, where did you learn that role? Where did you learn the role of holding the relationship together? Who did you have to manage, rescue, or keep steady growing up? I would ask you to go back through your past and think about, is this something that was done around you? And understand when the relationships feels under threat, the the automatic need to fix, where's that coming from? Okay, how do we repair trust? Yeah. Okay, so you have an avoidant, and every time you talk and communicate, I feel he shuts down and gets defensive and acts like I'm attacking him. Okay, so his losing strategy is withdrawal. And so, what is your losing strategy? Have a think about what your losing strategy is. And what I would, the first thing I would ask you is, when you want to talk to him about something, do you ask permission? Do you say, is this a good time to talk? And if the answer is no, accepting that and going away. And when you ask permission to talk, do you have 5 to 10 minutes to talk to me about this? Because with avoidance, they are very fearful of getting trapped into something that gets into something big and deep and they can't handle it. So try asking permission. Do you have 5 or 10 minutes to talk about this? Would you be open to talking to me about this now? And if they say no, accepting that and trying 2 or 3 times. Um, and and if despite space and clear requests, you're still being refused, then it's a sign that more support is needed. And you can book a discovery call with me, and I can support you in how you approach that. And uh, when we approach in a relational way, and we ask in a relational way, and we consistently make one simple, clear request in a relational way, then you get to find out uh, where things truly are at. Let's have a look. Okay, we've been trying to figure out whether to get married or split up for years. Okay, so this is what we call stable ambiguity. And this is comfortable, miserable. You, when you are stuck in the I don't know, it's a safe place to be. It's a comfortable, familiar place to be. It doesn't feel good, but it's familiar, and that makes it safe. And so, what I would guess for you is this is how you've learned to have your relationship. This is your relationship. This is how you do it. Because um yeah, if you've been doing it for years, this is the relationship that you've chosen to be in. And you've got to ask yourself why. You've got to go beyond this relationship and you've got to think, where did I learn to do this? Yeah. You may well find out if you stop and think about it, what were the relationships like around you growing up? Are you repeating something familiar that you learn growing up? Is this how people were doing relationships around you? It's really common for people to sit on the fence about, do I want to work? Do I want to commit, go all in, work on this relationship or leave? I mean, both are can be very, if a relationship's been difficult for a long time, both are terrifying. Leaving is horrible. And but then if you're really, really hurt, so's working on it. So I would ask, has the relationship always been like this? Or is this something new? Okay, you've been together 3 years. It's been like this for the 3 years. Okay. If that is the case, then yeah, this is what we call stable ambiguity. Okay. Okay. My boyfriend thinks I'm being oppositional if I have difference of opinion and that I'm trying to be right and he is made to feel small. He shuts down and says he doesn't want an argument and I say it's not an argument. So these are your automatic moves. So for your partner, I'm imagining he grew up um not being able to have a different opinion. My guess is that it was bad to have a different opinion from your caregiver growing up. And and he grew up, I imagine you mustn't argue, you must accept. Yeah. And you wanting a different opinion is unsafe for him. And then for you, it's okay to have a discussion about this. You probably have grown up with it being okay having a discussion. And for him, it's an argument. So I call this our operating manuals. We Our sponge is soaking in our environment and we create this operating manual which we make all our choices and decisions from, and most of it's completely unconscious. So your operating manual, your guide for life, has decided what an argument looks like. His operating manual is different and they're clashing. So what I would do is I would sit down with the losing strategies and get clear. What are your losing strategies and what are his? I'll send you the worksheet on this, the losing strategies and the winning strategies. Okay. And when you see yourself going to your losing strategies, how do you switch into winning strategies? Okay. Yes, okay, Dawn, I love that. Okay, so you're seeing that fixing for you is emotional management. So the question, my husband is avoidant. How do I get him to talk and communicate? Whenever I talk about my emotions, he shuts down and gets defensive. Okay, so what is happening to you is that to feel okay, you have to fix it, and you need him to repair with you so that you can feel okay emotionally. So this is a form of emotional management. And what's happening to him is that's a lot of pressure on him. And he's feeling the weight of having to manage your emotions. And how he copes with that is he withdraws. Okay. And so his losing strategy is withdrawal, and your losing strategy sounds like control. So you can own your losing strategy of and your core negative image of anxiously needing to fix and repair all the time. You can own that, and this is really familiar for me too. I have this problem too. So I learned to go to my partner and say, hey, I am not feeling okay about something. Uh, I'm like, I'm feeling like this about it. Do you have a moment? would you mind talking it through with me? Do you have 5 minutes? Could you talk it through with me? Could you help me get this straight in my head? And then for my partner who was avoidant and withdraw, like, oh God, I got to deal with this again. Um, it gave them a clear sort of role. Like, first of all, I wasn't going to put it. What I used to do was put it on him, like, you've made me feel like this. What? When I went and said, hey, like, I'm all like funny about it. Like, I just need a sounding board to get it clear in my head. If you got 5 minutes, that took the pressure off because I was taking responsibility and I was, we're just going to have a 5 minute talk about this. And I had to learn to, like, keep it to 5 minutes. I would want to talk about it for 15, an hour if I could. Um, and it put a time limit around it and it put a boundary around it. And it was like the clear request was, can you help me? I need your advice. Yeah. So, and then he would give his advice. And then I had to learn to accept his advice or his opinion. I had to learn to accept his opinion and not then start arguing his opinion. And then we get sucked into a conversation. Because if I did that, he was like, no, no, I'm not doing this with you. So, yeah, give it a go. Give it a go. Ask advice, put a time limit on it. Give it a go. Okay, so your mum shut you down and never listened to your opinion. Okay, so you learnt to get big and loud to be heard. Okay, there is where you learnt that. So, um, you react. So we either model or we react. Your mum shut you down and never listened to you. So you learnt to react to that. And clever kid learnt to react to that. You were shut down and never listened to. Okay. So when you went to get help, you were shut down. And so in that moment, the kid has no guidance and the kid has to do the best it can. And clever kid learned to go, no, you will listen to me. I need to tell you what I think. Yeah. And clever kid. Okay. So adaptive then, maladaptive now. Now it's working against you. Now you are not that little kid who has to fight to be heard. You're no longer that little kid. Now you're an adult. You can be heard. And so what you've got to do is you've got to get that Maria, what you've got to do is get that kid's sticky little fingers off the steering wheel when your husband doesn't want to hear your opinion. Yeah, you're getting triggered when he doesn't want to hear your opinion, and you're back in the room with mum who used to shut you down. And as a kid, we haven't got as much power, so we have to go to more extreme behaviors to deal with the moment. You got to get that kid's sticky little fingers off the steering wheel, put the little kid behind you, and you've got to operate from your wise adult and use the winning strategy of, can we talk about this? When would be a good time to talk about this? Use the 4 step method that I'm going to share with you and say, hey, is it now a good time? 5 to 10 minutes, boom, 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 boom. Yeah, not a book. Yeah, and give it a go. And then, because you're doing a dance and you learnt this dance, Maria. You've been dancing this dance before you got into this relationship. So your husband's triggering the dance for you, and you've been dancing this dance a long time. So it's not all about your husband. Okay. Okay, so when I bring up the subject of a lack of, we're on to another question now. And I would recommend all of you book a call with me because these are questions that you are keen to get answered. So when I bring up the subject of a lack of intimacy in our relationship, my wife accuses me of being needy. She's been physically withdrawn from the relationship for an extended period of time now. I've tried to name the feelings I feel, but she shuts down and gets defensive. Uh, okay, and I just like the effort I put into the relationship to be reciprocated. Okay, so what I am hearing and what you're saying is what is going on for you. And what I would offer you to do is to start really considering, why is she physically withdrawn from the relationship? Why is she shut down and defensive? Why does she feel you're being needy? So you feel you're putting effort into the relationship and she is not. Okay. So that's your story. Now, she clearly doesn't agree with your story. And you have to ask yourself why that is. Why that is. So you feel like you're putting effort in and she is not. Okay. And I'm pretty sure she would have a different version of events. And so what I offer you to do is to get out of, is she putting effort in or not? Are you doing more than her or not? Because this is right, wrong thinking. This is monitoring and measuring. And you're going to have to step back and look at the dance that's happening here. Yeah. And so one of the facts that you have here is that you are not physically intimate. So that is a fact. And understanding, I I wonder what it would be like to go to her and ask, I want to understand why we are not physically intimate. Is there something that I am doing wrong? Is there any feedback you can give me? Can we talk about this? Yeah. And so if you do have conversations about it, that and you feel that you are being gaslit, which what I would understand when people say they're being gaslit is that they're being dismissed and minimized. What I would offer to you is, first of all, stop using the word gaslighting. So it's a high stakes word, heavy word. And I want you to think of coercive control. This is gaslighting, is a criminal offense, and you're taking it to DEF CON. You're taking it. You're really up, the ante's being really upped. And what we need is to bring it down into calm and rational. And can I understand you and can you understand me? So I would first of all remove the word gaslighting, and then talk about how you are, talk about facts like, we're no longer physically intimate. I want to understand why. I want to understand why. Is there anything I need to do? And you may well have tried all of this, but what you're going to have to look at here is the problems in our relationship. I need to say this to everyone. The problem in your relationship is not you, it's not your partner, it's the dance you do. So you are both in losing strategies, and those losing strategies do a dance. Okay. So that's what you've got to look at here. You've got to look at the dance, not what you are doing, your partner's doing, what you and me are doing, and litigating the events. Yeah. So at the moment, you and your partner will be debating whether you are needy or not. Like it's a fact. And you've got to get out of that conversation. So the dance you do is, at the moment, the dance you are doing, KW, is you are pursuing your wife and your wife is retreating. That's the dance, pursuing, retreating. It's very common. So you pursue her, you go after her, and she retreats. And the name of the game is to get out of that dance. So what could you do instead? And I'm going to send you the winning strategies, because don't just do what she does and withdraw, because then you have two withdrawers and then it's a different dance and a dangerous dance. Um, you need to try some winning strategies and And the antidote to all of this is curiosity. Okay. Okay, so the relationship breakthrough program, I've had a question about the relationship breakthrough program. So the relationship breakthrough program is 6 sessions with me and alongside 6 sessions with me, either as a couple or as an individual, and we do it on the phone or on Zoom, 6 sessions with me, and alongside that, I have a online self-guided course of worksheets and pre-recorded videos that support you. We work on the tools and techniques, we coach in the calls, and then you are supported with pre-recorded videos and worksheets, this online self-guided course, and you have lifetime access to that. And it's £900 for individuals and £1,600 for couples. So if you are interested in booking that, coming on to the relationship breakthrough course, book a discovery call with me, and we'll get you signed up for that. Okay, so I understand this intellectually, but in the moment, I still react the same way. Right. I'm so glad this question has been asked. I am so glad this question has been asked. So it feels impossible. It feels impossible. You have this knee-jerk response, and it feels impossible to change it. But I want to ask you this. Do you respond like this, the way you respond to your partner? Do you respond like this at work? Do you respond like this out when you're out socially? Okay. Now, my guess is you don't. And that shows me you are able to control these responses. I'll talk to you about myself. I was a rager. It's incredibly uncomfortable to think about this. If I had responded the way I used to respond to my husband, to my boss, I would have got the sack. Yeah. So there were consequences to my behavior. And that meant outside of the house, there were consequences to my behavior. And that meant I had to control it. And uh and I had to control it. And But you see, inside the house, behind closed doors, we act in some really stupid ways when emotion is high, intelligence is low. And when everything calms down, we're like, oh, well, we justify, we reason, we give excuses for ourselves and each other. Oh, well, I was having a bad day and you shouldn't have said what you said to me. So it's not my fault. We shove it under the carpet. It all calms down. Oh, God, they were just like overreacting. And we shove it under the carpet. Oh, it's not that bad anyway. And we move on. Okay. And but outside of the house, if we behave like this, there are consequences. Okay. So my question is, I had a client once who was so depressed they were lying on the couch every day. They would come home from work and they would just lie on the couch all day and they were too depressed to do anything. And they were on medication and the medication wasn't working and their partner just had had enough of it, but it was the depression and they could do nothing about it and it was diagnosed and they had medication and everything. Now, my point to this person was if you can push through this depression between 9 and 5, if you can go to work and you can show up, even though you're depressed at work, you can push through from 5 till 9 and help your partner with the kids, with the dinner, you know? So you have to think to yourself, if you genuinely cannot control this, then you wouldn't be able to control it anywhere. Okay. Now, this is really tough work. This is moment to moment work, being able to control your losing strategies, but it's worth it. Like I said to you, there's a lot at stake here. If you don't solve your losing strategies, if you don't get out of these dances, your relationship may not last. And if it does, it's going to be an unhappy one. And this is the kids are watching. If you don't learn, for me, a massive driver was, oh my God, I cannot pass this on to my child. To consider, oh my God, what was done to me, I am now doing to others. I promised I would never do this. and realizing, oh my God, now I'm behaving like this. This is not about ability, this is about desire and leverage. And for me, the leverage, I don't want to pass this on, was massive. Okay, so I'm unhappy, but my partner says nothing is wrong. Now, this is really common. And if you are unhappy about it and your partner isn't, that tells me that the way your partner is behaving suits them just fine, and their behavior is affecting you and it's not affecting them. Because if someone comes to you and says, "Hey, I'm really unhappy with our relationship," a healthy response is, "Oh my God, I can't believe you're unhappy. We must do something about that, and let's get some help." If you're asking, if you're saying you're unhappy, I don't want you to be unhappy. Let's get some help. And if your partner is not having that reaction, it means that they're unreasonable behavior doesn't affect them. And what is going on here with this is you've got two types of shame and trauma. One type of shame and trauma is I'm a terrible person, I'm so awful, I'm not worthy, and we feel awful. And traditional therapy is great at dealing with this. We take ourselves off to traditional therapy. Traditional therapy loves you up, builds up your self-esteem, and you hopefully are able to get out of it. And the reason we will go off, the reason we'll go off and get help with that is because it feels awful, because we're being horrible to ourselves. Now, there's a different type of shame and trauma, and that is so contemptuous in is I'm an awful person, contempt out is you're an awful person. So for the person who's being selfish and grandiose, I don't like to use the word narcissist. Um, for someone who's being selfish and grandiose in their behavior, they're, you know, working all the time, or they go off and do what they want and leave you dealing with everything, or maybe they're always telling you off all the time, or maybe when they've had a bad day, they dump and vent on you. The problem with that kind of behavior is it doesn't feel bad for the person doing it. It's bad for everybody around them. And so the only thing you can do with somebody like that, who's like, yeah, this setup suits me just fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with having a massive go at you when I've had a bad day. That makes me feel great. I've dumped it all on you and now I feel all right. The problem with that, so what you've got to do with that kind of person is that there has to be consequences to that behavior. And so, for me, I was one of these grandiose people who was dumping on others when I didn't feel good. The consequences for me that got me into work were, oh my God, I'm doing this to my kid. Okay, so there are some consequences. Um, you are going to have to, if you continue to go along with the behavior, there will be no consequences. So if you're asking your partner to get into work with you and they're refusing to go, uh, you're going to have to think about that. If you carry on as normal, there are no consequences for them. But if your partner realizes that, listen, if we don't deal with this, our relationship may not have a future, and if we don't deal with this, we're going to mess the kids up, then those are consequences. And I can help you with that. So, okay. Any more questions? Any more questions here? Okay, thanks for your lovely feedback. I'm really happy this has been useful for you. And I really appreciate all these questions. These are great questions, and I hope I have been of help to you all. Please book that free call with me. That's a free 30-minute call with me, and I will walk you through how the relationship breakthrough course can help you with this. And you can decide if that's right for you. You don't have to make a decision on that call. There is no pressure. Just reach out. That's the next step. If what I've been talking about has resonated for you, that is the next step. So, unless there's anything else, you are very welcome and take care. I hope to speak to you soon.